I didn't sell all my Bears memorabilia behind me. I'm not giving up on
Yeah.
my fandom because the team is moving to Indiana. I'm not moving to Indiana, but I will be going back full time to the western central part of Illinois, back home. So if you've been on the show on this journey with us, like about 2 years ago, I made a career change and I was living in Springfield, and all of the recordings that look differently. I used to be in my studio at the radio station, and then now it's at home, and I'll be in a different recording studio at my house in the coming weeks. By the start of the next season, I'll be settled into what the new recording space will look like. But I wanted to let people know if they were panicked or worried about all my Dicka book and my cool Soldier Field CD player chart.
He's actually, Mark is going to be a Steelers fan from now on. We are now going to transition to a
Yeah.
fully Steelers show.
I literally only have my hats, like my it's like my deck to put on something behind me. The apartment is getting pretty bare, and it's a good feeling. But I didn't want to alert people as we start here talking about. I know the Bears are moving. I'm moving as well, but the fandom is not moving.
Well,
No
we're
matter
happy
where
for
they
you.
go.
I'm glad you're able to get back to a familiar environment and be closer to family, and just a whole lot easier for you. So I'm happy about that. It is interesting too that you've kind of been, I mean, gosh, since, not necessarily since this show, but since you and I have graced the airwaves in some form or fashion together, this will be like studio 4 or 5 for you, because way back um, when you were doing your radio show in Chicago, and I would call into that show every now and then,
That was
we would
fun.
have some hits there. And
That was
then
fun
obviously at
at the
your
radio
former
station.
radio station, and then now here, and then now back home. So
Yeah, that was great.
um,
That was great to record in the TV station. The radio station. That was fun. It wouldn't have worked me recording in the TV station here in Springfield because
yeah,
there's just
too
morning
much
shift,
going
night
on in the
shift, too much
studio.
going on,
Yeah.
and so it's been good. And luckily my neighbors have not complained about me yelling over the last 2 years. So I've been blessed with that. But I'm
Hey, maybe
ready.
they've been cheating and tuning in without ever giving us a metric on YouTube
Yeah, they're just getting the
Spotify.
live podcast, only listening to my half of the show,
Exactly.
and
They're just filling in the blanks.
so
On
the
the
less information part of the show, they're really missing out on the meat. They're just getting the icing. I will say, I mean, I'm excited to talk about this show. I think this is one of those shows where it's going to be a good stamp, like a time mark for us, because I do think things will continue to change and update with this Bear Stadium talk. So it's just kind of a good, let's get our thoughts out there. Let's regroup on the situation, and then we'll see when more news breaks. We can actually really adjust and go back to the conversation then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good call. It's been a long time coming, an episode like this. We've known for years that the Bears were planning to move and get out of their stadium situation in Chicago. We didn't know where that was going to take us. Several years later now, here we are with a potential move to Hammond, Indiana, pending. And so it's a good time for us to sit back, look at the entirety of this saga, and discuss kind of where we're at now, what you as a Bears fan would want out of this situation, and all the rest. So happy to dive in. We'll of course talk a little bit of NFL news before we get into it, but really excited to kind of pick this apart and discuss the Chicago Bears saga. All right, so before we get into this discussion on the Chicago Bears and where they may potentially end up, as always, we're going to talk a couple news and notes that have come out over the last couple of weeks. We haven't been on the air for 2 weeks now at this point. Not a whole lot has come down, but we do have some bits here. This is really the down part of the off season in terms of news, but we'll start with the unfortunate news. Aldon Smith, he was pronounced dead at the age of 36. Former All-Pro. I mean, you and I remember how amazing he was for those few years both with the 49ers and Dallas Cowboys, really played well. Apparently, the family has decided to send his brain to CTE research in Boston to determine. So I don't have a whole lot of facts around the cause or nature of his passing, but obviously, really sad to see. He had a lot of off-field issues even during his time in the NFL,
Yeah.
And now post NFL, ending way too soon. But just some really unfortunate news there. We got more news in the Brendan Sorsby situation that continues to evolve. Of course, he was initially had his eligibility stripped from the NCAA to come back for another season. So, of course, a quarterback for Texas Tech because of him betting on games that he was involved in. And, this was a constantly evolving situation. That ruling got reversed by a judge who said he can actually be eligible for the season. So we thought he was going to come back and play another year.
Those Texas judges, they understand. The boy can play.
And then he comes out recently and announces that instead he is going to decide to forego his year of eligibility because there were more appeals that were pending, and this was probably going to drag out all summer long. He has decided to enter the NFL supplemental draft, which honestly is a draft. As big of a fan as I am, I really haven't paid much attention to the years that it has occurred. So it's kind of a new thing for me as well. I believe you are kind of in the similar boat.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen every year, obviously. The last time it happened was in 2019. It's basically used for some very rare circumstances where athletes, apply late, or some circumstances allow them to lose eligibility after the NFL draft. And so then they go into this supplemental draft. Basically, NFL teams will then put in a bid, which is basically a future draft pick that they're willing to part with. And whoever bids the highest draft pick gets the opportunity to take said player in this supplemental draft. So a really interesting thing, obviously even more interesting when you're talking about a player who many projected to be a first round pick, next year.
Yeah.
So what are teams willing to bid on a guy who has some off-field, court issues already and not necessarily sure how that's going to play out. Very interesting all around. Any thoughts on the supplemental draft and Sorsby's, situation?
I think whoever got in his ear in his camp made the right decision. Like, listen, they couldn't have been expecting that judge to clear him, right? So
For
the
sure,
judge, I was sure it was a shock to them that the judge was like, sure, go ahead, he can play football. And as soon as that happens, then it created such a shit show for the Big 12, for college athletics, and this kind of already mess that they're in a little bit with the players getting paid, and all this throws another wrench to it, right? I think really smart from whoever in his camp was in his ear. Maybe it was just him to say, listen, we weren't expecting that. That was wild. We certainly expected the pushback when we got that crazy reaction. Now that we know we're kind of clear, we're done with college, we can move on. Let's just try to get into the NFL and through this supplemental draft. I'm glad the NFL offers obviously something for players like this and in situations like this. Obviously, Terrell Pryor is a famous supplemental draft person of our lifetime. He had the issues. Obviously, you think about that now. He got tattoos for free. Whoa, the bad man. So listen, he's a talented player. He's a guy that I think a lot of coaches would love to get their hands on and see what they can do with a physical body like him to play in the league. Certainly is not crazy that he could have ended up in a top three round pick next year, depending how the season went. I'll say this: my concern would be if my team is taking a flyer on a guy that we don't even know if the NFL might punish him. Now, he technically didn't break any NFL rules, but the NFL could still just say, listen, anyone who then is representing the Shield, if you still got court cases going on or whatever, we may have to suspend you. So I think that could hurt maybe the value of, giving up a second rounder. I don't, what teams might give up, but it'll be exciting to see where he lands. And it wouldn't surprise me if in the right situation, he's a guy that he might actually see some playing time this year, end up on the field.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are playing more now than ever before. We're seeing it feels like every year we're setting the record for how many quarterbacks play. And if he ends up in a situation in a Miami or something like that in Arizona, what's to say he doesn't get a chance to show if he can actually play in this league, a little bit at some point in time this year?
Well, it's intriguing for some teams who either maybe were expecting to pick late first round, and if they were anticipating him going early to mid, you don't now have to get in a bidding war with, I mean, you do have to get in a bidding war literally, but you don't have to get in a bidding war of like trading up with other teams and just hoping that your package is the most appealing. Yeah. Now it's just straight up, what are you willing to give up for this player? And you could get it. I mean, you even think of a team like the LA Rams. Like, what if they didn't take Ty Simpson this year? They had a first rounder next year, and they just decide. I mean, this is a team that really doesn't care about their first round picks to begin with. So why would, who are they to have any issue with just saying, you know what, we'll give you a first round pick for 2027. We'll be the team that bids the highest. And now we've got a quarterback for the next several years. We don't care that we lost our first round pick. We're expecting to be picked 32 anyway. Stuff like that.
If you're
really interesting.
Yeah, if you're a Buffalo, another like a team that's like really solid with your quarterback, but your backup, maybe you're looking at the backup position going, a lot of teams have already had some camps and stuff like that, OTAs. You're looking at saying, God, we don't have a guy in here that we're even just excited about, right? Like that can throw the ball 60 yards and do stuff like that. That's like a first round talent type guy. Why not try to take a flyer on that? And then, man, if he balls out in preseason or something like that, you could flip him back for another pick, maybe a higher pick. You know what I mean? Like it's to me, some GM is gonna do the right thing and pick him, and then you either turn it into something or at worst case scenario, you give up a third round pick for a quarterback. Well, how many times have teams picked a quarterback in the third round and nothing's ever happened with them? I wouldn't be mad at my fan base, to be like, that's what you do with quarterbacks. We say it all the time. You just got to pick them, try them, and then if it doesn't work, pick them again, try it again, pick them again, try it again.
Absolutely. A final bit of news here. Cam Jordan just announced, actually, just shortly before we went on air, he is returning for his 16th NFL season.
Where to? Or he's just looking for a home? He announced he's going to play.
He's coming to the Saints for a 16th season. Yeah.
Right.
He's coming back to the New Orleans Saints for 16th season. So there you go. Pretty impressive stuff. All right. We're going to get into Bears talk here. This is how I think we should go about it.
Okay.
Fox 32 Chicago's put together a really nice article here on the entire timeline of events starting in 2021. I think it'd be best if I share this article, we kind of read through real quick. It's not super long. Maybe it'll take 5 minutes to recap the entirety of events. And then I would really like to hear you can think about this as we're reading it through. I am just curious from your perspective as a Bears fan, as Mark Hespin, regardless of what the circumstances would require, what your ultimate utopia would be for what the Bears ultimately end up with. Because I do think that's important for us to think, like, sift through all the noise, just be like, this is what we want. This is what most Bears fans want. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be good. And then obviously we can talk about our thoughts on this entire saga, what you've experienced even in talks with state legislators, etc. All right. So I'm going to share this screen. I think this is a really nice article that gives a good synopsis, but doesn't drag us through a lot of monotony.
Yeah, the timeline is huge. This is great.
Yeah. So 2021, the Bears officially put a purchase agreement on the 326-acre plot of land in Arlington Heights. All right, this is 5 years ago, they knew that they were eyeing a potential move, and they paid for that lot in Arlington Heights, which was, of course, the former um, Arlington racetrack, very famous there. A move to the village was proposed as far back as 1975, but this was a massive step taken by the franchise to actually move to the Cook County suburb from their lakefront stadium, which has been the team's home for home games since 1971. So Bears have been in Soldier Field for over 50 years, 55 years to be exact. 2022, the Bears host an information meeting discussing the potential purchase and possible development of Arlington Park in September. So late 2022, we're already looking at the plans here for the Bears to move forward and what their eventual goal was. January of 23, Kevin Warren was named the new team president to take over for Ted Phillips. Warren's hired because of his acumen leading the charge in building the state-of-the-art stadium for the Minnesota Vikings. That's a key part here, of course, as we move forward. By the way, fox32chicago.com is where I'm reading this off of, so credit to them for putting this all together. In May of 23, demolition of the Arlington Park race course begins, and then the Bears in February officially purchase the land on February 15th for $197.2 million. The original concept is for a $5 billion domed stadium to be built on the land. A year goes by, 2024 in March. Arlington Heights offers the Bears a tax reduction in an attempt to secure the team to build its new stadium there. In April, the day before the draft, where they would select Caleb Williams, #1 overall, the Bears and the city of Chicago held a joint press conference announcing their plans to build a dome stadium and to invest more than $2 billion in private money in a publicly owned stadium and park space. So a public-private ownership, essentially, I believe, was the plan there. But the Bears are going to put in $2 billion into that project. The plan valued at $4.7 billion. In May, J.B. Pritzker, the governor, calls plans for the dome stadium on the lakefront a non-starter. He said the current proposal is a non-starter. In order to subsidize a brand new stadium for a privately owned sports team, the governor would need to see a demonstrable and tangible benefit to the taxpayers of Illinois. In June of 24, Kevin Warren says the Bears want to break ground on a new stadium by the end of 2025. In November, the Bears and Arlington Heights reached a tentative agreement over the property tax dispute that kept them from negotiating further in Arlington Heights. So they seemed to come to some sort of an agreement. The Bears said they remained focused on building an enclosed stadium, though, on the lakefront. 2025 comes across in March. The Bears submit traffic and financial studies for the Arlington Heights Stadium site. Then in September, the Bears, hours before their season opener, announced they're moving forward with Arlington Heights now as their future home. So moved on from the lakefront idea. Then in December, they said they're exploring Northwest Indiana as a potential site. In 2026, now in February, Indiana passed a Senate Bill 27, which was that giant tax bill to essentially foot the bill for every expense for the Bears for them to build in Hammond. Indiana offered about $1 billion in tax revenue, which could go towards the stadium infrastructure, to convince them. In March of this year, at the NFL owners' meetings, Kevin Warren set a timeline of a late spring, early summer for them to make their final decision on where they're building. In May, after Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said the Bears had conversations with Chicago about term sheets for a new lakefront stadium, the Bears released a statement saying that the team has exhausted every opportunity to have that stadium in Chicago. There is not a viable site, quote, in the city. As a result, the only sites under consideration are in Arlington Heights and Hammond. That was in May. Then in June, the Bears said they're advancing their stadium development projects in Hammond, Indiana, moving forward with a plan to build a new stadium out of state.
You know, in game 4 of the NBA Finals, where the Knicks were down by 30 in like the midway through the third quarter, and they ended up winning that game at the very end. It was an insane game. And congrats to the Knicks, and happy for Knicks fans after all those years. Um, that's what it feels like when you're reading that. It's like all of a sudden Hammond shows up, like Indiana shows up, and then it's just like their win probability goes from like
Yeah,
0 to
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's what it feels like with Hammond there in that.
Well, here's the thing. I think the very key part in both the Bears statement and in what's reported here is they said they are advancing.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Because people did treat this announcement as,
It's
oh,
done.
that's done. It's over. They're going to Indiana. That's not necessarily true. They used very specific wording. Now, I'm not saying, like, clearly the probability now has shifted in Hammond's favor, no question. But the wording is important here, and I think that's something that we need to take into account as we launch into this discussion here about where we're at right now.
So I'll start by just saying, I remember doing shows 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago when they even announced they're buying Arlington Heights, and I said firmly then, I don't want a dome. I want to be in Chicago. And then when the news would come along that, hey, we're moving forward with Arlington Heights, I could sell myself on it because of what? I could sell myself on it because it's what every NFL team is doing. You look at how gorgeous that Atlanta stadium is, how gorgeous that SoFi stadium is, how incredible the Minnesota stadium is. And you're saying to yourself, this is the modern NFL. Am I going to fight it? I'm not going to fight it. This would bring Super Bowls. This would bring Final Fours. This would bring maybe an Olympics. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about all these big things, and you could sell yourself on it. And honestly, I've been content with that for the last 2 years. And as you saw, it wasn't until February this year, just a couple months ago, 4 months ago, that all of a sudden the dynamics changed, and now Indiana is being talked about. And so, before I get into how I think all of this is played out, I will say, if I had the magic wish, for our obsessed fans out there, have you seen the movie Obsessed?
No, I haven't seen
Oh,
Obsessed.
okay. I saw it this weekend with my
Wait, no, you mean Obsession.
Obsession.
Yes, I have seen that. It's really good.
Where he snaps the willow branch wish. I would wish that the Bears could find a way to do what that original lakefront rendering was, where they turn Soldier Field into like a hangout museum. They take away all the stadium, they leave the columns, and they make it into a giant, beautiful park. And they basically get rid of one of the south lots and they build a stadium there. And then they take over McCormick Place parking for Bears parking. And you have a dome downtown, 100, 200 yards south of where Soldier Field was. And you work on infrastructure and traffic patterns to make it more feasible and easy to get in and out of. You know what I mean? If you're designing it from scratch, you can really design it to be like, hey, it's still going to be tight because you're pouring into the third largest city in America and one of the largest downtown in America besides New Manhattan. And you're saying, obviously it's going to be congestion, but you'll make it work. That's always been my, if I could make the wish. I think most fans, I think the Cowboys fans would say, I wish they were in Dallas. Like, if you give me a wish, I wish they were right there by the skyline in Dallas. I think 49ers fans would say Candlestick was awesome. Couldn't we have just figured out how to put the team in at a college stadium for a couple of years and build a new Candlestick in downtown San Francisco? I think the list goes on and on for those type of decisions. I think New York fans hate that it's in Jersey, and I've heard that commute to MetLife is a disaster. So, Chiefs fan, I'm going to pause on the Chiefs. I have a whole point about the Chiefs coming up, and we'll get to that because they are moving from Missouri to Kansas. While this has all been going on and it's made a lot less national attention, I think I know why. Regardless, that would be my make-a-wish, right? I would wish for the Bears to be downtown in something like that, in not a permanent dome, but in the kind of SoFi-esque elements.
You can open it and
elements are available, but it's not you can still, if there is a blizzard, you could get the game going without it being a foot of snow, where it's still maybe cold, where there's still temperature, there's still elements coming in, kind of like what you have at SoFi, where it's open air. So you'd get like open air elements, but it's feasible. A roof, so where Taylor Swift is there for 5 days, if there's a rainstorm in Chicago, she still can go on the concert. It's totally fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the wish. I think now, if you want to turn to where everything is at. I can break down where I think everything is at and why it's that way. And I think number one, why my wish isn't happening is because the city of Chicago itself has done the worst job of, if there's one thing, that entity that deserves the most blame, it's the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is in such horrific debt. I don't need to get into all the specifics, but from the parking meters being sold to everything, right? They're in so much debt that even though the Bears paid off their portion of the renovations, the city never did. And now that's ballooned up to, $500 million. And the city still doesn't want to be saddled with that bill. I mean, it's embarrassing how poorly run the city of Chicago is. And again, I don't want this to turn into a giant political debate. But if you don't spend a lot of time in Chicago, I lived there for years. So you go there all the time. Yes, any political candidate can go take a video walking down by the Riverwalk. Like, Chicago's amazing. Chicago's great. I'm by Navy Pier. Look at how great Chicago is. Because it is. Like any major city, there are areas of it that are untouched, fantastic. It's beautiful. It's picturesque. It is as American as apple pie, the metropolis. But the city as a whole, the whole city is so poorly run over the last couple decades, and the financial issues, they are not in a place to help the Bears. And the problem with the Bears,
realistically, realistically,
the problem
they just couldn't do it.
And then that's the problem with the Bears. Stan Kroenke spent basically like $8 billion of his own money when it was all said and done to get SoFi done. And it's not even in LA. It was in a bad area that needed renovations, but he's so wealthy, he kept writing the checks. He just got what he wanted. He paid the Rams. He paid the St. Louis. I buy. He was just writing checks to do whatever he wanted. When Mark Davis moved the Raiders, he had to get all of these breaks from Nevada and the city of Las Vegas because he's a poor owner too. He's like the Bears, the Maras, like the McCaskies, like these.
Like their wealth is in
their wealth is just tied to the team. They can write their checks, but the McCaskies aren't going out and buying private islands, right? They're not doing that. So again, that's the problem with the Bears. The Bears' problem is, at some point in time, the max they can put up is $2 billion, which is a lot of money. They didn't and the Senate Bill Indiana deal we'll talk about. The Bears should still pay $2 billion to build the stadium. What Indiana has done is what 90% of every other state has done, which is basically say, duh, you're the NFL. You bring so much value to an area, we will write you a blank check. That's what 27 of the 32 NFL teams pay zero in property taxes. Illinois has the highest property taxes in the country. We just passed New Jersey a couple months ago. We battled back and forth with New Jersey. To put it into perspective, the teams that do pay property taxes, the most expensive are the Rams and Chargers. They split a $14 million a year bill. But that's pennies, right? That's pennies. The Niners pay $6 million, so the California teams. The Patriots in Boston, which is very liberal Boston, the blue Massachusetts, they pay $2 million. And then the Giants and Jets split a $6 million. In New Jersey, which has high property taxes, they have cut them a sweetheart deal to pay very minimal. So then we come back to where the state of Illinois now has fumbled the bag. Chicago fumbled the bag, and that's why the Bears were like, we're going to Arlington Heights. And if you remember in that timeline, we talked about, the Arlington Heights finally came to a deal. Remember there was talk the Bears might go to Naperville. The Bears opened it up, said, well, we're going to look, because at some point in time, they were looking for Arlington Heights to guarantee local township that will kind of write you the blank check.
Right.
But remember how government works. Locally, they can say, we promise you. But if the state comes in and says, no. It's just like if the federal government comes in and says the state, no. Like it's the positions
the hierarchy.
Of power. Yeah, the hierarchy. So Chicago as a city fumbled the bag. The Bears should never have even had to consider leaving the city. But the city is not in financial enough position to help a giant moneymaker for them. And the city of Chicago, let's be honest, is going to feel the pain from them moving either to Indiana or Arlington Heights. They're going to
That's
feel the
where I'm
pain.
not. That's where I'm not as
They are
sure.
Dan.
I don't know how much an NFL team means to a top 5 market. Versus the Bears' impact on the Hammond, Indiana economy is 5,000x
Correct.
whatever impact it
Correct.
could ever have in Chicago.
No one's arguing that. I'm
And
not arguing that. But
that's a thing too, right? I
I
mean, that's
do.
why New Jersey's
Yes.
hosting the New York Giants and Jets stadiums. That's why LA is going out. Now, you can say then the equivalent is Arlington Heights, not Hammond, Indiana, which I would agree with.
Correct.
But yeah, I'm just pointing out, like, the city doesn't.
But the city is already in such financial disarray. You're losing something that guarantees brings you revenue for your park district. It is a park district revenue thing. The city basically never has to spend money on the park district because of the revenue they get from the Bears. And now you're saying to the city of 3 million people, hey, you know, all the money we had from the NFL team that was feeding our park district, that's gone. Like, it's going to hurt. It's not, you're right. The city, if they get competent decision-making and do some things the right way, any major city can rebound from anything, right? They can bounce back from a lot of stuff. So there's all these players, right? Chicago, the Bears are a player. I'll talk a little bit about Illinois again with the property tax thing. So what happened then where February comes around of this year and now it feels like it's falling apart? Well, here's where the NFL and Illinois start butting heads. The NFL benefits, we've all read the articles, every time a team builds a new stadium. All the owners get a check.
Yeah.
And Roger Goodell represents all the owners, and all the owners want a check. They haven't ever gotten a check from the Bears. They've never gotten that check, right? Because even when they did the renovations, I think in 2003, the money was different then, and no one got a big fat check. The Bears are a big fat check, and everyone wanted them to move and build a dome stadium, just like all the other teams have been doing, because they all get a big fat check. And the NFL knows that it makes them more valuable and that product more valuable. The NFL doesn't care that the Bears are going to hurt the economy of Chicago by leaving. It's going to help the NFL's business economy. And it's still, the skyline's there. It's Arlington Heights, whatever. It's the Chicago Bears. It's the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington. You know what I mean? The list goes on. They don't care.
Right.
So the NFL is a player in this. And so at this point in time, when you think about it, the NFL is like, okay, great. 2023, 3 years ago, we got the deal with Arlington Heights. Arlington Heights signing off. They're starting to tear down, shovels in the ground. This is going to happen. Everyone's getting their big fat check. From what I've read and what I've heard from different people, the NFL started really putting the pressure on, like, what is going on? And they put the pressure on the McCaskies. Get this done. What is happening? The NFL, to their own probably dismay, doesn't understand the political climate in a state like Illinois too. And so the Bears are saying to the state of Illinois, hey, listen, Arlington Heights has agreed to not screw us. We're going to have the same deal that every other team besides those couple I mentioned, and we're going to have a property tax certainty. Well, the state just goes, yeah, well, we're not so sure about that. We kind of want you to pay property taxes. If the Bears started building in Arlington Heights right now, and they just said, screw it, we're just doing this without any guarantees from the state, their property tax bill this year in that stadium, remember, I said, what was the highest so far? The Rams and the Chargers split $14 million.
Yeah,
the estimated would have been a $53 million bill.
Okay.
Could escalate in the years up to anywhere between $100 and $150 million a year.
Yeah.
So if you're the Bears, who are a poor franchise, they're cash poor franchise, they can pay their bills, right? They have the salary cap, they pay all their employees, everyone's paid.
Which is also their fault too. I mean,
yes, they have.
The Bears
they haven't diversified their portfolio.
Yeah.
The family keeps growing, so everyone keeps getting their little pieces. It's not a central one person with wealth that can take a big loan out and, make all the decisions, right? So correct. So that's why this is all so messy.
It is
basically
messy.
You have to then look at the state of Illinois. Why would the state of Illinois do that? Listen, I'll play devil's advocate for the state because I don't support what the state has done. but I'll play devil's advocate. If I'm the state of Illinois, I'm saying, listen, screw you guys. Like, we don't have to do anything you say, right? We don't have to give you these breaks. The state is in the worst pension debt of any state in the country. It has more pension debt than 48 other states combined if you minus California. We have more pension debt than everyone else. That's not talked about at a national level. It's getting in the weeds here, and I'm trying to stay out of the weeds, but you have to understand, why would the state do this? The state is poor. We have the lowest credit rating of any state in the country. Yes, we have the 5th largest GDP of any state, but over the last 8 years, under the current leadership, Illinois' GDP has grown as a bottom 5 state, meaning the growth is stagnant. People are moving. We've net lost taxpayers and people. People are fleeing the state. You're seeing it in New York, California. It's not only Illinois, but it is in a financial tightrope right now. The Bears, and giving them breaks, is not good for the brand of the party that controls the state. They're a party of billionaires bad, we the people, spread the wealth, don't help the businessman. And so if you're the state, you're saying, no, we need you to pay property taxes. And the state is also, again, if you look at like what happened in Virginia, for example, where they tried to redistrict everything, where it's like basically all the districts connect back to DC, and that's how they were going to flip seats. Illinois has a Chicago issue for the legislator of the state. The majority of the legislators in the House and the Senate have ties to the city of Chicago. All their districts start in Chicago, and then they go, it's gerrymandered like crazy to have that, the politics we have in this state. So again, none of those people that represent the city of Chicago want to be the person who says, I voted to let the Bears leave to Arlington Heights. They were all feeling the pressure from the mayor, from the people in the city to say, no. They can't leave. And they got to pay this debt that's not really their debt. So again, there's all of these factors happening as the McCaskies are sitting there going, the NFL's telling us we need to do something. We don't know what to do, because they cannot move to Arlington Heights without tax certainty. They can't afford a $50 million tax bill, which is insane when you compare it to what the other NFL teams are playing. And so
let's pay, because I think it's fair to play devil's advocate on that too. They could afford that, because the amount of money that they would, it's not like they would be in the red every year paying these property taxes.
Well,
their profits would be razor thin compared to any other team. And so that, that has to be taken into account. I'm not dismissing that by any.
Correct. And to the Bears' credit, they have said they have not asked for property tax relief for all the entertainment stuff they want to build around the stadium in Arlington Heights. They would happily pay property taxes on that. But they want what the 27 other stadiums have, which is property tax certainty. They're not asking for something that they'd be the only state that is giving their team property tax.
Well,
that's why I say it's unfair comparatively, right? The Bears aren't, and that's the other thing, right? You see a lot of comments online, which is like, billionaires pay for their own stadium. The Bears are saying, whether it's Arlington Heights or Indiana, or whether it was Chicago, we have $2 billion. We're not asking you for money for the stadium. The money they asked for, the $855 million from the state, which was part of this mega projects bill that then died, was the Bears wanted property tax certainty from Illinois, and they wanted $855 million, which is the number that came up with from studies that they paid for themselves, which is basically like, in order for us to build the shops and the stadium and the roads, we're going to need you, the state, to spend about $855 million to fix the highways around that area, the drainage around that area, the power lines around that area. Basically, the infrastructure around that area, which the state would handle in any situation, right? And you say to yourself, that's a lot of money. Again, if you look at the drop in the bucket, which is now a $56 billion budget in Illinois, that the money's there, right? Again, so it feels unfair if you look at the actual data to say the Bears are asking for $1 billion. It's like, it feels it is a lot of money, but it would be over the course of multiple years, and it's money that it's not like the state doesn't have for these projects anyways, right? The money is there for projects to
Mhm.
support economy in your state. So again, the Bears have a problem. They're poor and they have pressure from the NFL. The NFL is kind of being a dick. They're pressuring the Bears because they want a fat check. They don't care if they're in Indiana or in Chicago or not. They don't care. They get the check. Then you have Illinois, which has got financial issues like Chicago, and Illinois is playing the greedy moment where it's basically saying, we're going to let you take the hit and we're going to just play the headlines and say the headlines are going to make us look fine. You're the dumb team that moved the Bears out of Illinois, and they're playing this political game. But the state and the city still want the Bears. I mean, financially, how could you not want the economy that a team like that brings? Which is then where Indiana comes in. Indiana sends blood in the water. I don't know how. I've still tried to get from multiple people who tipped off Indiana to even start these conversations. I don't know how that began. I would love to find that out eventually. But
Yeah.
some smart lawmaker figured out we should pass a bill, Senate Bill 27, which gives the Bears exactly what they asked for from the state of Illinois. We're going to give you the $1 billion for utilities and infrastructure around whatever site you choose. There was multiple sites. They chose the Hammond one. And then you put up the $2 billion. You get property tax certainty. And also what the Bears would get from Indiana is it is a publicly owned stadium, just like Soldier Field. The Bears actually wouldn't own the stadium. But what would they get in benefit from that site that they're not getting from the Chicago, just staying in Soldier Field, is they get complete revenue control and they get to schedule what happens in that building. And that is a huge factor.
What does revenue control mean
So
in
they
that?
retain revenue rights. So they get the game day revenue, they get the concession revenue, they get all the revenue control that the stadium generates. The city of Indiana, the state of Indiana, the city of Hammond, the state of Indiana wouldn't get to dip into that beyond just whatever taxes they have to pay on it,
Yeah.
like any other business.
See that
So
like that is the type of stuff that like pisses me off. Like overall, like I understand that it's a precedent across the entire country. So I'm not
yeah,
saying that this is some sort of like
correct.
outlier um, situation, but those are the types of deals that to me they dangle the carrot of,
Yep.
well, look at all of these jobs that we're going to bring in.
Yep.
So there you go. But it's like you, the public, you own this, but you don't get anything. To me, this is the exact same thing
Yep.
as how big pharma screws over all of us. We pay for the research and development.
Yep.
They own the entire product and the profits out of it.
And you
that's
can't
how,
sue them. And you
so
can't sue them if it
correct.
goes wrong. That's a
Correct.
whole other thing about big pharma.
So that's what's
yes.
really hard. Like that's why I can, even if Illinois is not making the case from that principled grounded fact, and they're masking it with that type of argument, to me that argument still holds true, even if the precedent is, well,
True.
this is how all the other
Illinois is
stadiums do it. That doesn't make it
Yeah.
right for the people.
Yeah.
And every study that I've been able to find on the true economic impact of NFL and sports stadiums is actually that the impact is wildly overstated by all of these teams. And granted, all of the studies that I've been able to see are like 15 to 20 years old. So I don't know about these new like dome stadiums, what that actually does, but all of the data we have in terms of economic impact in wide ranging research studies show that the net impact to the economy is almost a wash, if not negative sometimes. And so that's what we're talking about. Who's actually making the money on this? It's really not the money's not going back into the taxpayers' pockets for having a team in town, even if they help subsidize, the costs.
And I think,
all of that to say, I actually agree that the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago have not been charitable partners in this process at all.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has done a real shitty job here.
It is. And Indiana is offering is when you put it in your way, it is what everyone else basically offers an NFL team.
Yeah.
And
But when
so
you're the city of Hammond, that's
that's
bigger. That's a bigger
and
deal.
that's where
Yeah.
that's where I think Indiana is smart, right? Where I
Yes.
think Indiana is smart is and this is now what gets me to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I
Yeah,
finally got to my Chiefs
it's a
point.
perfect
So
correlation.
the Chiefs, at least the state of Missouri, Illinois hasn't done this, which is I think is what's so criminal. The state of Missouri allowed the county of Kansas City, where the Chiefs are located, like right near the border to the Kansas City line, right? The city is on both sides. Unlike St. Louis, where at least the river is there is East St. Louis in Illinois, but it is St. Louis is technically all in Missouri. Kansas City is not. Kansas City is literally in the two states.
Mhm.
And I would argue the nicer suburbs and the richer areas are the Kansas side. Historically, Overland Park, Kansas, is up there with like Naperville, Illinois, is like one of the great suburban towns in all of America. And where the Chiefs are moving is right near there, a very richy, bougie. It'd be like the Bears moving to Arlington Heights, upscale, richy, bougie suburban area. But at least that county, I can't think of it. I think it's Jefferson County or whatever it is. They held a vote and they said, are we going to increase taxes by X amount to pay to help finance the Chiefs and the Hunt family building a new stadium to stay in Missouri? And the voters overwhelmingly said no. And so then the Chiefs said, we have our answer. Kansas said, we're going to give you those tax incentives. Come on over. So at least the people got a say.
Right.
There has been
has
been no ballot initiative, whether at the county level or at the state level, to say, listen, are we willing to give the Bears $1 billion in infrastructure money, which are already being taxed under? They wouldn't have to raise the taxes. Again, even if they had to, were you willing to pay 10 cents more on hotel tax or whatever to help fund this? Or yes or no? Give it to the people and let the people at least then give you a word. Now, the legislator could take with what they want and say yes or no, but give the power, at least hear the people out. So that's where I think you go back to your point, the 5,000x exponential growth for Hammond, Indiana, and that part of Northwest Indiana is dead. And that part of southeastern Chicago is dead. It is a very, very troubled economic crime area. It's not like the Bears are moving into the ghetto, but it's just, it's rural, suburban, southern Chicago, Northwest Indiana near Gary, that those were steel towns that 40, 50 years ago were hardworking, blue collar, where Michael Jackson was from, but quality towns, but all the jobs are gone now, right? All the steel mills, everything's closed, power plants closed. This is the state of Indiana saying, we can give that area a giant economic jolt. Is it the best economic jolt? I don't know. We don't know. The studies would, but what other jolt can they give them, right? Like,
well, for sure. No, I think it would. It almost certainly would have an impact.
And there is a reason why
in Hammond. Yes.
There's a reason why, again, trying to stay out of the politics of it, but Illinois is completely controlled Democrat. Super majority in the House, super majority in the Senate. Democrats have been in control of Chicago since 1931, and they have a Democratic governor in the office. So they complete control. Indiana is completely controlled by Republicans. But I will say there are obviously Democrats in the Senate and the Congress of Indiana, and even they voted yes on Senate Bill 27. Sure. So the state of Indiana was completely aligned with this legislatively. What I will say is interesting, if you get to then the argument for Illinois, is that I think what's so frustrating for Illinoisans seeing this on a daily basis is it's not even like that one mega projects bill, it died. And the one bill that did show up by the end of the voting session was not, like I said in the last episode, didn't even show up until 11 p.m. And things are supposed to be done by midnight. And the Senate passed it. And the bill basically would do what the Indiana bill. It was a quick mock bill of Senate Bill 27. We'll give you the infrastructure and we'll guarantee no property tax. It was a Bears specific bill. The mega projects bill was trying to litigate. It would include the Bears, but all giant corporations that were looking to relocate to Illinois. And I get what they're trying to do. You want like a blueprint, right? If you're a giant company, you want to Illinois, here's the blueprint of what we're going to give you and what you can and can't have. And it would be very clear then for corporations to make a decision to come or go to Illinois, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the thing I think that kills us. That kills me as I'm like, we didn't even give them the chance. The Bears have been saying for 4 years now, we need help. And the state of Illinois still has not passed one bill in 4 years. Again, in all 4 years controlled by the same people, It's not like we've had different governors it's the same people. And nothing has happened.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying Democrats bad, Republicans good. That's me saying clearly it is not a priority for the state people who run the state of Illinois. This was never a priority for them. It's not a priority to get a bill done because they can pass things. I've seen them. I've sat on the Senate floor. I've seen them pass things all the time with only Democrat votes because they control everything. They don't need a Republican to vote. If all Republicans always vote yes, it doesn't matter. Yes or no, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But it goes back to that issue that the districts are so tied to Chicago. None of the Chicago reps want to vote for something that has the Bears leaving Chicago.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so even the one party they've stalled as a party. And so they needed Republican votes, but then Republicans are saying, well, if you need us, well, we got some demands we'd like to see, which is obviously business-friendly things that Democrats are never going to vote to support. So that's where the politics comes into it. And again, I'm trying to stay out of it as much as possible. I think where we're at right now, it makes no sense for the Chicago Bears to if they legally had to make a decision tomorrow, they would have to go to Hammond, Indiana. As an organization, as a business, as a franchise, you cannot stay in Illinois with this uncertainty and this lack of cooperation at all from the state. I would argue, though, the reason
if you're the Bears, but if you're the Bears, you know that the Senate passed the bill. You know that the House chose not to vote on it, but
they can.
If you're the Bears, does that be like, okay, well, we're literally right there.
And that's again why I think it hasn't happened. Because I think if you were to truth serum the McCaskies, they'd be like, this is bullshit. This got way out of hand. Why is this happening? Just do what all the other states are doing. Why is this so hard? You get hit on the press for one day. Oh, okay. We voted to give taxpayer money to infrastructure that is going to help a team that is billionaires, but it's a one-day press and gone the next day. It's every other state. I think the Bears are literally sitting in their office going, this is fucking nuts. Like, what is going on? And I think that's why it's gotten so messy. And I think that's also why I believe the city of Chicago when they're saying, hey, the Bears were still talking to us up 2 weeks ago before session ended. Because I think the Bears are still saying, well, hell, maybe the city can, if all the city reps want to vote to keep us in the city, let's get together here and figure it out. Right. So I think they don't want to leave. They don't want that bad press. I don't think they ever wanted to leave Chicago. I think they bought Arlington Heights because it was dirt cheap, and it was their first
expansion
threat. It was their first threat. It was their first hey, we might go.
Their first leverage point.
And ever since then, the leverage point then became not Arlington Heights, any suburban town, and then the leverage point became Indiana. And it all marks of life, no government cooperation in the state of Illinois from all the way down has led it to where we're at now, with you couple in the fact that if the Bears aren't rich enough to just do it on their own like Stan Kroenke.
Right. Yeah. There's one part as we kind of wrap up here. There's one part I want to explore that is probably that might be the least important, but yet could be actually the most compelling argument to this whole thing. Which is George McCaskey. Knowing the McCaskey family as well. They're that team that ownership group that's kind of unique in that, they're not really football people. They're lifeblood, their family. But to them, this is also their entire family heritage and everything is tied up in the Chicago Bears. It's not like some other owners and families where they made their mark in other industries. Is George McCaskey, does he have the ability to take the team that his grandfather founded and that belongs to the league and move them out of Chicago? Like,
does he have the balls to do it?
Could it be that simple though? Could it be that simple in that, I would think psychologically as somebody as a owner who does have billions of net worth, that's got to be in his head. Like, am I tarnishing the legacy of George Halas in some way by doing this just for a money grab? Like, and not to say that it is necessarily a money grab, but that certainly, could be articulated in that way.
The song, the Bears have a fight song, and they've had it for forever. And it literally says, "You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears, bear down." The song ties the Bears to Illinois because the Bears did start in Decatur, in the heart of Illinois, in central Illinois. The song ties the Bears to Illinois. I think it keeps them up at night all the time. And I think, Dan, what you could see from this is one of the other things that was great in that Fox 32 article. Thanks for finding that, because that's good. They said Kevin Warren was hired on X date. And what is Kevin Warren's resume? He got the deal done with the Vikings.
Yeah.
This is Kevin Warren's deal to get done. And the Bears, I don't think, ever wanted to go to Indiana. And maybe it was Kevin Warren who said to Indiana, "We're interested." And maybe that was Kevin Warren going, "Don't worry, McCaskey's watch. We'll get Indiana to be interested." And now Pritzker and the Illinois Democrats are going to fall right in our hands, and they're going to give us everything we want. This thing will be done. I'll release a statement. We're gonna be done by the end of spring. Boom.
They're both playing each other. Both the state and city are playing the Bears, and the Bears are playing them.
And I think the McCaskies could ultimately look at this and go, "We have a lease on Soldier Field till 2033. It takes 3 years to build a stadium. Like, what the bleep are we doing? Like, we're not moving to Indiana. This is insane."
Yeah.
And I think maybe if he doesn't have the fortitude, my guess is you'll see a Kevin Warren get fired at the same time the Bears announce, "We are staying in Soldier Field. We are committed to staying in the state of Illinois. We will stay in Soldier Field until the state of Illinois gives us a workable deal that is similar to every other NFL team to finance a new stadium in either Chicago or in Arlington Heights. And until then, we will continue to stay at Soldier Field." And I think that would be smart for the Bears to do, because what does that do then? The McCaskies can go back to the rest of the owners meeting, and go, "You guys are all equally as rich to Pritzker, who's the fourth richest, comes from the fourth richest family in the country, the Pritzker family with Hyatt money," and say, help us out here. What do we need to give him to get everyone in line, to scratch our backs? Minnesota is just as liberal as Illinois, if not further blue. And they got a stadium deal done, right? Like, it's like, how is this? It should not be a red and blue issue.
No, I can absolutely,
it shouldn't be. And even in California, the Rams and the Chargers, 14 million. The Bears, I'm sure, would sign the dotted line on that. Like, they would sign the dotted line. The problem is that bill couldn't even get to the governor's desk for it to be signed. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, what's so frustrating is that when you look at the politics of it, it's like, how can nothing get moving when one party, or you could argue one person, the governor, because he is very wealthy and he funds all the campaigns of the people who run in the Senate and in the House. How is this not getting done? And I think that gets into a hole. Then you could spend conspiracies or whatever. I don't want to get into the mind of the governor's head and why he feels like it should or shouldn't get done. But that's where we're at.
I mean, like you said, though, I think the state I think Pritzker, I think anybody involved here wants I think everybody involved
Yeah.
here wants the Bears of Chicago.
And I think
Um, and they just
my
have
short,
wildly different ideas of
yeah.
how much they can squeeze out of each other
Yep.
to
Yep.
get
It's a
what
great
they
point.
want.
My,
And it's
the
at the
short
end of the
answer
day,
is
it's like it's leaving just like this
yeah,
residents of Chicago and Illinois
it's a limbo.
left to sit there in anger because they're like watching. It's like watching their best friends fight back
Yep.
and forth and no resolution in sight.
Yeah.
When really
And
they want the deal done. They don't care how it's
and
done.
I would argue again, this is a governor that's won 2 terms in a row and it has a complete Democratic supermajority. He can spin this however he wants. If he gives the Bears $1 billion, is he how, how is he concerned that's going to lose him an election when he won the last election against the guy
Yeah.
he's running again? It's like it's one of those things that
Well,
just
look, I'm not. You know,
doesn't make sense. Like it
I guess we
doesn't.
can't get in his head, but like,
Yeah,
I mean, maybe he's doing what he's doing, and the state
yeah.
legislators doing what they're doing out of a principled stance that they feel
Maybe
they can't get out of.
maybe
Like,
they
I
feel
don't
like
know. I
you're
truly
right.
don't know.
He
But
might look at he's considering a presidential run, and he might look at this and say, "I stood up for taxpayer dollars to never go to a greedy corporation." He's gonna have a hard time with some of the other decisions. Again, we don't have to get all that,
yeah,
but you're right. It could be a we're taking a stand type moment. Um, it's such a mess. It's such a
it is a
mess.
mess. That's why it deserved a full episode here for us
And I will
to
say,
discuss
I
because
don't think it's the last we're going to talk about it
no,
because
it's not. And that's what I
it's
was saying.
not
Like
over. It's not over.
the advancing the stadium project in Hammond is just that. It's an
A-
advancing
Until
of the
shovels are in the
plan.
ground, until shovels are in the ground, and anywhere, it's not over.
No, and I mean the Bears have already bought. They own Arlington Park. They
Yeah.
own it. This is their location currently. So there's a lot. Okay,
You know, I
final
will say
thoughts
the
'cause
Bears, the
yeah, we
Hammond, Indiana. The problem the Bears have with Hammond, Indiana, I guarantee this is part of it. Is their headquarters are in Lake Forest, Illinois, Hallis Hall. That's where
yeah,
all the players live up there. Hammond from downtown, like Soldier Field, is not far. It's like 15 miles, like a 30-minute drive with traffic. It is not bad at all.
mm,
Problem is, Hammond from Lake Forest is like an hour and 20,
yeah.
and you're sitting through the worst traffic, and it is a nightmare scenario, and there's nowhere.
Yeah, because you got to get through. You got to get through
There
basically.
is very rare areas, very small areas in Northwest Indiana where players would consider moving to buy
Right,
nice
right.
homes.
Yeah,
And they would want to do that because you could do that and then save so much on the taxes and all that other stuff. Like you could do, it would be great. But that's another issue they're going to have to sell. It's like you have to live in Chicago, in Illinois, pay the Illinois taxes, and drive an hour and a half to work. It's like that's a whole nother mess to this whole thing.
yeah, that for sure is. Okay, feet to fire. What's ultimately going to happen?
If I had to bet right now, I would bet that the Bears are in Hammond, Indiana. I
Okay.
think it happens because, and I think my gut tells me the NFL is fed up, and the NFL is putting so much pressure on the McCaskies, and the McCaskies will fold into that. And the
Okay.
NFL is saying, you owe us a big check. Get a big check. Take the deal. F Illinois, F that administration. We're not dealing with them. We're not helping you with this. Move to Indiana. I think that's what'll happen.
Yeah, I think the latter. I think they'll be in Arlington Heights. And the reason I think that is because it is the twofold. I think the fact that the Senate passed a bill, knowing that, so they know that it's right there. It's right there. But also I really do think the family legacy thing
Yeah, it's huge.
is more important. Like okay, not to disparage other people, but like Tepper is not a guy who like cares about that.
Yeah.
Like I
Good,
just
good. That's
I
a
could,
great person to choose for your analogy.
I could
You're
never
right.
see him really like oh I could
He'd
care
move
less.
he'd move that
But
team out of Charlotte in a heartbeat.
the McCaskies are George Hallis, and I just think that that weighs on them a little bit more
We'll see.
than some other owners,
We will
perhaps,
see.
because they're not business wheelers and dealers.
And I will say, from what I've heard from my inside sources and the people I get to work with and talk to at the Senate, is that you have to remember how government works as well. There is a lame duck session in the fall. So after the voting in the fall, there's going to be senators who lose their seat. There's going to be congressmen, House reps who lose their seats. And during that time, what they do is you see a lot of shady deals where things are getting donated from the governor to certain so-and-so's charity or whatever, to make sure something happens. So if the Bears can hold out, if the state of Illinois can hold the Bears from committing to Indiana until the late fall, lame duck session after the election is when I would imagine you would see it. That's like early December. Ends, that you would see the Congress take that up and say, okay, deal's done. Here's the deal. And the Bears are staying in Illinois. So there you go. I just don't know if the Bears could wait that long.
I know. I mean,
so we'll see.
It's been 5 years.
It's crazy.
So I don't know where we're at, but this has been fun. I'm glad we got to talk about it. Obviously, a good portion of our viewership is from Chicago. They're Bears fans. And so we owed it to you all to have a long conversation about
and
this.
Hopefully they appreciate their own states and their own situations a little bit more.
There you go. This has been fun. I don't know if we won't be on the airwaves. I haven't even talked to you, but we won't be on the airwaves next week. I will be unavailable, but we'll see about the following week, early July. And then, really we're a month away at this point from getting some ramped up news and us starting to do our, season predictions and bold predictions and all of that stuff. So I'm excited. But we are in a little bit of a down period right now. And so that allows us to do some of these fun episodes. So as always, we appreciate everybody watching and listening. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We are once again launching the Toys for Tots League. So go over to For Frequency's Sake podcast network on the various social media sites. You can check out the For Fantasy's Sake QC Facebook page for more information on the Toys for Tots League. In particular, we're trying to get several hundred teams once again to donate to a great charity across our various communities. So appreciate your help in making that happen. And as always, we'll see you here next time.